Lendeborg is a born winner. The Warriors just drafted a 6'9" point forward.
Lendeborg leading the break. Disrupted, but Lendeborg finishing inside now. He's 4 for 4 from deep. Holy moly.
Everybody's talking about what Yaxel Lendeborg did in Summer League. The highlights, the stat lines, the effortless way he looked like he belonged on an NBA floor. But none of that is the most unbelievable part of his story. Because just a few years ago, he wasn't one of basketball's brightest prospects. He wasn't even on the radar. 3 years before hearing his name called in the NBA draft, most major colleges had already moved on without him. The game had almost forgotten he existed. Now, the Golden State Warriors believe they may have found one of the biggest steals in the entire draft. And once you see everything it took for him to get here, you'll understand why this story is about much more than basketball. Long before NBA scouts were timing his workouts or front offices debated where he belonged in the draft, Yaxel Lendeborg was just another kid growing up in Pennsauken, New Jersey. It wasn't the kind of place that regularly produced NBA talent. No national spotlight, no powerhouse high school, no endless stream of blue-chip recruits. If you wanted people to notice you, you had to give them a reason. Fortunately, basketball was already part of his life. His mother had represented the Dominican Republic on the women's national team. His father had done the same on the men's side. The game was woven into the family long before Yaxel ever picked up a basketball. But talent alone doesn't guarantee opportunity, and his first major obstacle had nothing to do with basketball. As a freshman, academic struggles kept him off the varsity team. No exceptions, no special treatment. Sophomore year came, and he still didn't play. Junior year, the same story. While other future college stars were building highlight tapes, climbing recruiting rankings, and collecting scholarship offers, Yaxel was watching from the sidelines. 3 of the most important years of a young player's career disappeared almost before they began. When he finally stepped onto the court as a senior, he had just 11 high school games to prove himself. 11. His team won 10 of them, but by then the recruiting world had already moved on. The biggest programs in America weren't calling. JUCO wasn't interested. Kentucky wasn't interested. Neither were most of the schools young players dream about. For almost everyone else, the story would have ended there. For Yaxel, it was only beginning. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to SkariZone. We go beyond the highlights and headlines to tell the stories most NBA fans never hear. Now, because what happened next completely changed the trajectory of Yaxel Lendeborg's career. With almost every major college passing on him, Yaxel Lendeborg accepted the only opportunity he had, Arizona Western College, a junior college hidden far away from the bright lights of Division I basketball. This wasn't where future NBA lottery picks were expected to be. There were no national television broadcasts, no sold-out arenas, no mock drafts following every game. For most players, junior college is viewed as a last resort. For Yaxel, it became the perfect place to rebuild everything. Instead of worrying about who overlooked him, he focused on becoming impossible to ignore. Every practice, every rebound, every possession became another chance to prove that the recruiting rankings had gotten it wrong, and little by little, they had. By the time his junior college career came to an end, Yaxel had become Arizona Western's all-time leading rebounder. Think about that for a second. Not just one of the best rebounder in the history of the program. At a level where very few people were watching, he was quietly developing into one of the most complete forwards in the country. He wasn't simply bigger than everyone else. He played harder. He anticipated rebounds before they happened. He defended multiple positions. He made winning plays that rarely showed up in highlight reels. The basketball world hadn't discovered him yet, but his game was evolving much faster than anyone realized. Eventually, somebody finally noticed. The University of Alabama at Birmingham, better known as UAB. It wasn't one of college basketball's traditional powerhouses, but for Yaxel, it was exactly the opportunity he needed. For the first time, he had a chance to prove himself against Division I competition, and almost immediately, he showed he belonged. His first season at UAB introduced people to a relentless interior player, a physical rebounder, a tough defender, a player willing to do all the little things that winning teams depend on. By the end of the season, he had earned first-team All-AAC honors, was named the conference's Defensive Player of the Year, and helped lead UAB to the AAC Tournament Championship, where he was named Tournament MVP. For someone who had spent years being overlooked, it was a remarkable transformation. But Yaxel wasn't satisfied, because the player everyone saw during that first season wasn't the player he planned to become. When Yaxel Lendeborg arrived at UAB, he was known for doing the dirty work. He rebounded, he defended, he scored around the basket, and he did all of it well. For most players, that would have been enough. But Yaxel wasn't interested in becoming just another reliable big man. He wanted to become impossible to categorize. So when his second season began, people didn't just see a better version of the same player. They saw a completely different one. His scoring jumped to nearly 18 points per game. He averaged over 11 rebounds, more than 4 assists, nearly 2 blocks, and almost 2 steals a night. Those aren't the numbers of a traditional power forward. Those are the numbers of someone who could impact every part of the game. One possession, he'd protect the rim. The next, he'd grab the rebound, push the ball up the floor himself, and create an open shot for a teammate. It wasn't just production anymore. It was versatility, and NBA scouts couldn't ignore it. He became one of only 2 players in Division I history to record more than 600 points, 400 rebounds, and 150 assists in a single season. That kind of stat line doesn't happen by accident. It belongs to players who influence winning in almost every possible way. By the end of the season, Yaxel had once again been named first-team All-AAC and Defensive Player of the Year. The kid who once struggled to earn a single scholarship offer had become the most sought-after player in the transfer portal. Then came a decision that surprised a lot of people. With NBA scouts already projecting him as a first-round pick, Yaxel entered the 2025 NBA draft process. But after testing the waters, he made an unexpected choice. He withdrew his name. Instead of chasing the NBA immediately, he bet on himself one more time, one more season, one bigger challenge, one final opportunity to prove he belonged among college basketball's very best. That decision would change everything. When Yaxel Lendeborg decided to return to college, instead of entering the NBA draft, he wasn't looking for another good season. He was looking for one final transformation. That opportunity came at Michigan. Head coach Dusty May didn't see Yaxel as just another forward. He saw something much more valuable, a player who could do almost everything on a basketball court. Instead of keeping him around the basket, Michigan expanded his role. He handled the ball, initiated the offense, made reads as a playmaker, attacked defenders from the perimeter. The player who had once made his name as an interior scorer was suddenly operating like a point forward. It wasn't just about adding new skills. It was about proving he could fit into the modern NBA. And almost immediately, everything clicked. Yaxel averaged over 15 points, nearly 7 rebounds, and more than 3 assists, while shooting efficiently from the field and knocking down 37% of his three-point attempts. But numbers only told part of the story. Night after night, he became the player Michigan leaned on when the game mattered most. Whether it was making the right pass, coming up with a defensive stop, or delivering a timely basket, he impacted winning in every possible way. By the end of the season, the accolades spoke for themselves. Big Ten Player of the Year, Consensus First Team All-American, Big Ten All-Defensive Team. Nearly every major individual honor college basketball had to offer. But the biggest prize was still waiting. Michigan captured the national championship, ending a 26-year title drought for one of college basketball's most historic programs. And at the center of it all was Yaxel Lendeborg. Think about how remarkable that journey really was. A player with only 11 high school games, who started in junior college, who reinvented himself at UAB, had now become the best player on a national championship team. Every stop along the way demanded a different version of him, and every single time, he answered the challenge. By now, NBA teams weren't asking whether he belonged. They were trying to figure out where he would be drafted. Draft night had finally arrived. As the first 10 picks came off the board, Yaxel Lendeborg waited, one name after another, one opportunity after another. Then, with the 11th overall pick, the Golden State Warriors called his name. For Yaxel, it was the reward for years of believing in himself when almost nobody else did. but for the Warriors. This wasn't simply about drafting the best player available. It was about solving a problem. Golden State wasn't the same team that dominated the NBA for nearly a decade. Stephen Curry was entering the later stages of his legendary career. Draymond Green had logged countless playoff battles. Jimmy Butler was recovering from a serious knee injury, while several key rotation players were either unavailable or fighting injuries of their own. The Warriors didn't have time to wait 3 or 4 years for another young prospect to develop. They needed someone who could contribute immediately. That's exactly what made Yaxel different. At 6'9" with a powerful frame and a 7'4" wingspan, he already possessed an NBA-ready body. But what truly separated him wasn't his size. It was his versatility. He could defend multiple positions, handle the basketball, create for teammates, crash the boards, and stretch the floor when defenses left him open. Those are the kinds of players every team spends years searching for. Golden State believed they had just found one. General Manager Mike Dunleavy even described Yaxel as a player capable of guarding every position while handling secondary playmaking responsibilities on offense. In today's NBA, that combination is incredibly rare. The Warriors weren't looking for someone to become a star 5 years from now. They were looking for someone who could help them win now, while also becoming part of whatever came after the Stephen Curry era. Yaxel Lendeborg offered both. But if anyone still questioned whether he was ready for the NBA, he didn't have to wait long to answer them. Draft night gave Yaxel Lendeborg an opportunity. Summer League gave him a chance to prove he belonged. For many rookies, those first few games are about adjusting to the speed of the NBA, learning the system, finding confidence. For Yaxel, it looked different. From the moment he stepped on the floor, he played like someone who had spent years preparing for this opportunity. In his Summer League debut, he showcased exactly why Golden State believed in him. He defended with confidence, moved the ball without hesitation, finished efficiently around the basket, and looked completely comfortable playing against NBA-level competition. As the games went on, the production continued, nearly 17 points, almost 8 rebounds, close to 5 assists per game, while shooting an impressive 60% from the field. But the numbers weren't what impressed coaches the most. It was how naturally he fit into winning basketball. He didn't force shots. He didn't chase highlights. He simply made the right play, over and over again. Whether it was switching onto smaller guards, protecting the paint, finding an open teammate, he played with the maturity of someone far more experienced than a typical rookie. Even more encouraging, Yaxel admitted he still wasn't at his best physically. He told reporters he was continuing to work his way back into top condition after the draft process. In other words, the version everyone was watching wasn't even the finished product. Of course, Summer League doesn't guarantee NBA success. Every rookie still has to prove themselves when the regular season begins. The pace is faster, the competition is tougher, and expectations only grow. But if these first performances are any indication, Golden State may have found exactly what they were looking for. Not just another young prospect, a player capable of helping them compete today, while growing into an important part of their future. Basketball has a funny way of deciding who deserves attention. Some players are celebrated before they've accomplished anything. Others have to fight for every opportunity they get. Yaxel Lendeborg belongs firmly in the second group. From playing just 11 high school games, to junior college, to becoming a national champion, to hearing his name called by one of the NBA's most successful franchises, every step of his journey had to be earned. Maybe that's exactly why Golden State believed in him. Not because he followed the perfect path, but because every obstacle forced him to become a better player. Now comes the biggest challenge of all. Can he help extend the Stephen Curry era and eventually become part of what comes next? Only time will answer that question. But if his journey has taught us anything, it's that betting against Yaxel Lendeborg has never been a very good idea. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to SkariZone. We go beyond the box scores and headlines to uncover the stories that shape the NBA. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.